Okay. It's, November 24th, 2020, approximately 6:12 p.m. I'm Detective Rodney Black with Officer Professional Standards. Here today is Officer Michael Weber. You go by Mike or Michael or
Just Michael.
just Michael? Um, he's here to talk to me about external complaint 2020-12242 made by Jack Miller regarding an incident that happened on October the 4th at the Walmart on South Drive. Excuse me. You got the complaint, correct?
Yes, sir.
You read it. It's been over 48 hours since we gave it to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to read you your Garrity warning, okay? Okay, Michael. This questioning concerns administrative matters relating to the official business of the San Angelo Police Department. I am not questioning you for the purpose of instituting criminal prosecution against you in reference to this internal investigation. During the course of this questioning, even if you do not disclose information which indicates you may be guilty of criminal conduct, even if you do disclose information which indicates you may be guilty of criminal conduct, neither the self-incriminating statements nor the fruits of any self-incriminating statements you make will be used in criminal legal proceedings. Since this is an administrative matter and any self-incriminating information you may disclose will not be used against you in a court of law, you are required to answer my questions fully and truthfully. If you refuse to answer my questions, this in itself is a violation of the rules of the San Angelo Police Department, and you will be subject to disciplinary action. This Garrity warning is limited in scope and only covers details concerning the current investigation. Incriminating statements indicating possible criminal acts unrelated to this investigation and divulged by you during this investigation may be used during unrelated criminal proceedings. Understand that? Want me to read that again?
Yeah.
This Garrity warning is limited in scope and only covers details concerning this investigation.
Okay. Yep.
Incriminating statements indicating possible criminal acts unrelated to this investigation and divulged by you during this investigation may be used. So,
okay. I get it.
You get that. All right. So, do you understand everything?
I think so.
I read that. Okay. Just indicate, Michael, right here that you understood it. And put the date and time. And if you don't have any questions, just indicate that right there. That's it.
Okay.
I'll fill the rest out later. Okay. Well, I guess let's just go back to October the 4th and tell me what happened. Start from when you got dispatched and what information you were given in the call notes or over the radio, and go from there.
I'll, to the best of my recollection.
Sure.
So, got dispatched to, I think it was an unknown problem. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a little while. About an intoxicated subject with a child causing problems at Walmart on South Drive.
Did they indicate what kind of problems?
I don't remember exactly what the call note said.
Do you recollect them saying something about harassing people?
Yeah, I think so. Something like harassing people in the parking lot or something along those lines.
So you get sent to possible intoxicated person with a child, possibly harassing people in the parking lot. Is that what you remember?
I think that's right. So.
Okay.
I was dispatched, so I arrived at the location, found the vehicle that was described in the call notes. So we had a concern I had a concern we had an intoxicated person with a child driving around.
Okay.
I found the vehicle. I stayed with the vehicle in case the subject came out. The other officers, Francis and Mayberry, went in, and I guess they located him inside the Walmart. They located him. They detained him, and I went in. They'd been in there for a little while, and to see what was going on.
So when you say detain, explain to me what you mean. What?
Well, I was under the impression that he was being detained because he was an intoxicated person.
Okay.
So I went in to see if they needed any assistance, to check on them, that sort of thing, because if they hadn't, I didn't need to stay with the vehicle anymore. And I went in, when I arrived, he was not identifying himself to Officer Francis. I told the guy, I said, you need to identify yourself.
What were you basing that on?
I was under the impression that he was being detained, that he was intoxicated, and being that I thought he was driving around with a kid in the car and he was intoxicated, I thought it was pretty serious. So, so that's what I believed when I got there.
But what I'm trying to say or ask is, so you think he's being detained, right?
Mhm.
And not identifying himself.
That's right.
So, what was your understanding of the law at that point in time as far as being detained and not identifying himself?
So, well, I had thought we had a PI at that point in time, and that was an arrestable offense, and that he wasn't IDing himself. I didn't ask questions. I probably should have when I got there. Probably gone with a more measured approach. Asked either Officer Francis or Mayberry why he was being detained, or if he was intoxicated or something along those lines. But I was under the impression the reason they were still there with him was that he was intoxicated and not being cooperative. So I probably assisted on that, and tried to get the guy to identify himself. And when he didn't identify, I'm trying to remember, I think I asked Officer Francis if we needed to arrest him, and I got an affirmative. And so when we went to arrest him, he resisted. So we held on to him until we could get handcuffs on him. And
define how he resisted.
He tried to get his arms away. He tried to, I guess, physically remove his body from us by walking away, twisting, turning, that kind of thing. I mean, he wasn't throwing punches or anything like that. So
he didn't want to be arrested.
He didn't want to be arrested, so he was trying to get away from us.
Mm-hmm.
So we did our best to hang on to him. I think I was holding his left arm, and just trying to hold it in place. He tried to step away and get away, that kind of thing. And we just hung on to him until we could get his arms behind his back and place handcuffs on him. And I think at that point he quit trying to get away, get his hands wrenched out of our grip, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So
let's go back a little bit. So you and Officer Francis made the decision to arrest him.
That's what it.
Did Officer Mayberry, was he involved in that decision?
I don't remember him saying anything.
I mean, I know he helped y'all once you.
He helped place him into custody.
Yeah, he helped take him into custody.
I think he actually placed handcuffs on him.
Right.
So,
but was he involved in the decision
to make the arrest?
Do you recall?
I don't think he said anything. He didn't say, "Hey, let's arrest him." He didn't say anything along those lines. To be honest with you, I didn't turn to him and say, hey, should we do
It
this?
seemed like it was more of a conversation between you and Officer Francis.
Yes.
Is that correct? So Michael, let's go back, when you go in there, you immediately walk up. I'm recalling this from the video.
Mhm.
You immediately walk up and you're assuming this guy's being detained
Yeah,
and not identifying himself.
right. I thought we had an arrestable offense for public intoxication at police
Okay.
at that point in time.
But did y'all arrest him for failed ID or PI?
So, well, I thought it would have been arrested for, I mean, we wouldn't have gone any further in my mind if he wasn't PI. So the arrest I thought was gonna be failure to identify, but he was PI. Although I don't think that was explained.
What was at that point in time, what was your understanding of the failure to ID law?
So I am familiar with the failure to ID. Inherently, we can't arrest somebody for failure to ID unless we have an arrestable offense, and they should be placed under arrest for that. And then the failure to ID would come into play. So.
Okay, at that point in time, did you think you could arrest somebody who's being detained for failing to ID?
No, that would not be the right thing to do.
But what I'm asking is, what was your understanding of the law? And I'm basing this on your conversation with Sergeant Holt.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember my thought processes at the time.
Mhm.
So he did an ID, and at that point in time, like I said, I thought we had an arrestable offense, and I think we went about arresting him for the failure to ID. But
Did you,
I thought we had
looking back at the video,
the PI.
did you not tell Mr. Miller, excuse me, that this was an investigation for an intoxicated person, and he had to identify?
I believe I said that, yeah.
Okay, so by you saying that, you're making me believe that you thought if somebody was being detained, they had to identify themselves.
Identify for that, yeah. I don't disagree with you.
Okay,
So.
I'm just trying to get y'all's state of mind on.
Well, and that's
the
what I'm
law
trying to
at the
think
time.
of what my process was on that. So,
Okay.
We,
So, in looking at the video, it looks like to me that so he's being detained and he wouldn't identify.
Right.
So you and Officer Francis decide we're gonna arrest him for that,
for that, yeah.
for failure to ID.
For failure to ID, yes. But
Okay,
inherently, I thought we had the public intoxication arrest,
which
even
you
though,
learned that y'all did not.
yeah, afterwards, yeah.
So y'all arrest him, he resists, y'all get him under control. Part of that controlling technique was pulling his arms up, behind him.
I don't
Do you
remember
recall that?
I don't remember doing that.
Okay.
And that's not something that I regularly do.
Mm.
I can't remember doing that. On this case, I do not remember lifting his arms up, like above his head. I've seen it done before, but I don't remember doing that with him at all. And that should be on the video if
Right.
it occurred. So,
So you don't usually do that,
no,
and you don't recall doing that?
I don't recall doing that with him. No.
Okay. What would be a reason that you would not do that?
Well, the way I understand it, if you have somebody with their hands behind their back obviously locked into position, and you forcibly move their arms up of like above their shoulder blades, you could possibly pop their arm out of the socket, which we don't want to do that. So, but holding someone's arms behind their back and placing them in handcuffs, and if you redirect people by holding their arm and their wrist and then moving it around, but I don't recall ever bringing his arms up past his shoulder blades.
So you don't recall doing
that? I do not recall doing that. If something like that happened, it'll be on the video, but I don't remember doing that. I don't remember having any thought process.
You wouldn't intentionally do
I
that?
would not intentionally do that,
Would
no.
you think you might could do that in the heat of the
If
resisting
the
arrest or
person is
something?
resisting and I'm trying to get a hold of their arm, I can't control which, I'm trying to
You
control.
wouldn't intentionally just do that,
No.
just to,
No, I didn't do anything with that to cause any pain on that guy at all.
okay.
I didn't do any pain compliance. I didn't do anything like that. I didn't twist the cuffs to get pain compliance. I didn't do like a wrist lock to get pain compliance.
When y'all moved him, so y'all get him under control and he's up against some
There's
shelves
a
or
cooler,
something.
yeah, there's a cooler.
Then I guess y'all move him to another cooler, cause I guess he's still resisting.
I don't exactly remember. I know that initially when he was resisting, I'm trying to remember where we were at. We're in the checkout lane. There's a cooler here and there's a cooler here. And he's trying to get, I think he's trying to get bias this direction. I had his arm, and I think we managed to push him up against that cooler. And then I think he got redirected towards that other cooler.
Do you recall when he's up against the second cooler, holding his head down on top of that cooler?
No.
You don't recall doing that?
No, I don't recall doing that. I did grab the back of his head. As he was trying to get away, I redirected him away from me, because if I can turn someone's head away, usually that stops the direction they're trying to go. But I didn't bash his head against the cooler.
No, do you recall if you held him, like you said, where you were holding his head up against the cooler?
I don't think I held his head against the cooler because he was above the cooler. His head, I think, was above the cooler. And I think when we got him up against it, he started trying to get away or push. I'm not really sure exactly. And so I held onto his arm and then redirected his head away from that direction. And that will usually stop somebody from going that direction. But I wasn't like bashing his head into anything or anything like that.
So y'all get him under control, and I guess Officer Francis and Officer Mayberry escorted him outside, and you stayed with his son
Yeah, we were
inside the store.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna leave him unattended.
Okay.
So,
So what happened while you're in the store? Did Officer Francis contact you on the radio, or?
So I don't remember exactly. I think I was in the store. One of the staff members at Walmart was basically with the kid with me, and took him into, I think, like an employee area. And I sat with him in there. I didn't hear anything from Francis or Mayberry so I requested, like, hey, are we gonna have someone come pick the kid up or something along those lines. At some point, I think he said somebody was going to come and get it, and then come and get the kid, and then I think he told me that to go ahead and just bring him out. Brought him out, and then I saw that suspect, I don't recall having his name at the time, was out of handcuffs. It was explained to me that he wasn't intoxicated, and that we shouldn't have made the arrest. I think Ray mentioned it to me briefly, and then Sergeant Holt explained what was going on. And so I gave the guy my name, I gave him my badge number, and if he wanted to make a complaint, he'd have my information to do so.
Okay. All right. So just so I understand it right, your interpretation of failure to ID at that point in time was you could arrest somebody who was being detained and refusing to identify themselves.
If we had an arrestable offense, is the way I understood it. So I believe we had an arrestable offense. He should have been arrested for PI, and then the failure to ID at that point. I understand that. He shouldn't have been arrested for failure to ID inherently. He should have been arrested for the PI.
But he was not PI.
No, he wasn't. I didn't know that until I found out later. So I thought the guy was messed up on drugs or something.
But what did y'all arrest him for?
We arrested him for failure to ID. But I thought if we had the original offense, which he was being detained for, that was a good arrest. So, but I know that that's not a good arrest.
So wouldn't you arrest him for PI and failure to ID?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. So, absolutely. But apparently he wasn't PI. So it's moot. So
Okay.
if the guy wasn't PI and there was no evidence of it being PI, I don't understand why he was being detained. So.
Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. You pretty much explained it all. You got anything else? Maybe I didn't ask you that you want to say?
No, I just, like I said, the guy should. I thought he was intoxicated,
And you based that on
the call notes, my initial observation of his appearance, and then the fact that he was being detained by the other officers.
so the call notes were it's a possible intoxicated person with a child and possibly harassing people, right?
Yeah,
And you assumed when you went in there that they were detaining him
because he was
for that,
intoxicated.
because he was intoxicated. And then you said something about the way he looked.
Yeah, so I thought it was, so when I saw him, he had sores on his arms that are generally indicative of methamphetamine use, and combined with harassing people in the parking lot. I thought it wasn't alcohol at that point in time. I thought he was messed up on meth or something.
So you thought it was PI on drugs, not alcohol?
Yeah. Initially alcohol to the call notes, but then when I saw him, I figured it was probably going to be a narcotic or something.
And so I'm still trying to be clear on so when you get in there, you think he's PI.
I think he's PI.
And not identifying. So, but he hasn't been arrested yet, right?
Yeah, he wasn't in handcuffs, no.
So he hadn't been arrested, so he may be PI.
That was my belief.
He may be PI, but he had not been arrested
for PI. That is
for
correct.
PI.
Yeah.
So since he had not been arrested for PI, you can't arrest him for failed ID.
That is correct. Yes.
And
I
you
understand that. Yes.
Okay.
I understand that. Right. Although I never would have gone with a failure to ID arrest if I had thought the guy was sober. You know, if we didn't have an initial charge.
But you understand that he needs to be arrested.
Yes. Yes.
And then ask for his information, and he won't to make that arrest.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else. Do you? It's 6:37 p.m. and we're gonna conclude our